everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Act with Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Peddle, and of course, over here we've got John Stevens. Welcome, John.
Hey, how's it going? Great to see everyone.
Welcome. We got a new fancy little setup here, so I made sure that yours look the absolute best.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know,
I need that today.
I hear that. And then over here on the not so good setup, we've got Adam Shupruk. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am really stoked to be here. It's going to be a really great podcast. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, why it's going to be so good is over on my right side, we've got Jonathan Sagall. Welcome in. Round of applause for Jonathan Sagall. Welcome, Jonathan. We're so happy that you can make it out today.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, everyone. And
Yeah. So tell me, so you were here about 2 weeks ago. I mean, you don't tell me as if I don't know already, but you did a workshop with us. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the lead up to that, and what was kind of the purpose of the workshop?
the lead up.
Yeah, how did it come about?
I met John, and we discussed and talked. And then I cajoled him into making
Cajoled
a
him?
workshop.
No, what happened, John?
Cue everyone looking up cajoled.
Yeah, in my brain I'm like, have I heard of this before?
It's like that is a very
it's not a
interesting
word in English?
But you know what's funny though
Could be,
is
yeah.
like honestly, like we don't have the normal meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just have to tell everyone the first time that Jonathan and I met, first of all, it took a while for us to connect because it was my time, his time, everything. And I'm pretty sure Jonathan thought like, who is this guy? Like, why is he so hard to connect with? But finally we connected. And I have to tell you, it was the weirdest meeting because my back was out. So Jonathan showed up here to the studio and I was like halfway bent over. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And he's like, here, lay down on the ground. And he rolled my back and he actually like, not massage, but like, he like moved my legs while I was on the floor. And I was like, this is not a normal meeting. But I have to tell you,
work meeting. But
but it really worked and it actually helped. And the thing that I love about actors is there's no boundaries. Like you just kind of break through and you connect on a very real human level. Mm-hmm. And when you came in, you could see like, okay, like he's having a rough day. And it was a very bizarre, like this is not a normal first meeting by any stretch of the imagination.
It's normal. I don't know.
But no, it was really, you know what? I think there's a certain connection between actors when you just kind of connect and you say, you know what, like we're human. We have things that happen, and he helped me. And for me, I think that's a really good clue as into who someone is and what their nature is. And I think Jonathan is a very helpful and nurturing soul. Like. I know,
What do you think
shocking.
Of that? Yeah.
I actually managed to fool him.
But no, it was a really bizarre but very real first encounter. And so I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about you is that like there was no judgment. You didn't see me for the very wary person that I was at that moment. And
No, you're very reassuring, and you're very happy to start something new, and that's actually something which I really like about you. You're open to suggestions, and you're open to new ideas, and I think that's very crucial if you run a place for actors to come and practice and shoot some stuff. Then they have to get a lot of everything.
And I'm glad that you said that because like I think there's a lot of studios where they have a specific point or a certain like direction that they're trying to steer people. And for me, it's always been about like there's lots of different ideas out there.
Yeah.
And you and I have very different ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't feel threatened, and I don't think you do either. Like I feel like there's something very interesting
It would
about
be boring if it would be the same. No?
Oh my God, yes. And the whole thing about acting, and I think the thing that we try to promote here is you have to create your own personal acting technique. There is no one way to approach any script. There are certain things that work for certain people, and there are certain things that work for others. And that's what I appreciate about bringing in people who have different ideas. And you and I teach very differently, and it's not a bad thing. And I feel like so many people like shun one idea or another.
Really?
And I really appreciate your candidness and your approach because there's value, and there's obvious value because when you taught that workshop, I've got to tell you, the feedback was insane.
Yeah, for those
It was
listening,
of
I
no-
was there.
Yeah.
I was running tech, and yeah, it was very eye opening. And from an acting perspective, it was.
So all the bullshit that I was talking about actually convinced.
no, because sometimes your whole life you're grown up to believe like like
One
you talked
thing.
about, you got to color it and like make it like more than it needs to be. But with you, I mean, you could definitely expand on this further. But you simplified it.
Because Adam, this is the great advantage of being old, and I've been through so many film directors in my life, not just film directors, and I can honestly say, as horrible as it sounds, that about 70% of them don't know what they're talking about. Because they're not there, they're not the actors, they're outside, and they think all they need to do is direct. And usually, a lot of times when they direct, they just ruin everything. They take away the spontaneity. They take there are a lot of directors who need to know everything in the beginning. Everything has to be clear cut. And I love working with directors who just let you fly and try out new things, even if they seem wrong sometimes. A lot of times it seems wrong on the set, and all of a sudden you go home, you look at the rushes, say, fuck, that was interesting.
Is there any directors that you've worked with that have that, where very good, where let actors kind of go?
Unfortunately, not too many. There was one director who I loved working with, but he died, unfortunately. And I think he's the only one.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
'Cause you
I don't like directors. Because
aren't you a director?
This is the thing, because when I direct,
Yeah.
I try not to direct. I try not to get involved in ruining somebody's spontaneity. I don't like to discuss the characters, because it's really interesting and intriguing to see what actors bring from home, and they bring a lot.
Yeah.
They bring a lot.
Yeah.
The group of these people, I brought texts to them, and a lot of them gave them their own interpretation. It was very interesting.
Yeah. When you get out of the way, it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing is, and this is something that sucks, I know it sucks because I know that in myself if I'm an actor, is learning the lines. And learning lines is not just learning them by heart. It's internalizing them so much that it becomes yours. It's not text anymore, it's you talking. And that's not easy for a lot of actors.
Yeah.
Not easy.
It's true.
And I love that you're talking about that with directors, because actually Adam and I were having a discussion about this the other day, since we both were working on shows that worked with different directors. We were bringing up the fact that a lot of directors do not know how to talk to actors on set, because they don't know the right terminology to use. They'll say, just go to this mark here, do this, but then when it's time to yell action, things kind of fall apart, and everyone wonders why. So
Yeah,
Or
it's
they use very
a different
vague-
lingo.
Yeah, they use very
Exactly.
vague statements where it's like, can you just like own it.
Exactly.
Or I'm like, wait, what?
It's like, own it how?
Own it. Like it's like, you know, like you're the man, but like don't be the man, you know? And I'm like,
And you're
Okay,
like, no, I don't know.
I have to tell you the funniest casting that came across my desk recently. It was for a person who discovers that they are part vampire. Mm-hmm. They are floating in the air, and their dog starts talking to them.
Oh my God.
And the direction was from the casting director, keep it grounded, keep it real. And I'm like, okay, so like I appreciate casting directors who give direction, but how
How
are you
would
supposed
you-
to interpret keep it grounded when literally the character is floating
yeah.
in the air? And there is a different lingo.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily
Because I
match
understand
up.
what they mean. Like I get it, where it's like, oh, like don't be like, oh, you know, like I'm flying, you know, but like keep it real. But like, how do you, you know, how would you interpret that, Jonathan? If you got that direction. For those who don't know, Jonathan used to be an actor.
I don't know. You know, when directors tell, directors don't really like me because a lot of times I ask them, you know, why this and why that and why do I have to do this or why do I have to do that? But seriously, if directors could just be quiet, that would be really nice.
So in your mind, let me ask then, because for a lot of people, they're like, okay, wait. So if you're not going to be involved with the actors, then like, what do you do? Like, what is your ideal?
That's the
role
thing. This
as
is
a director? What do you do?
this is what's fascinating about acting, because acting is really it's taking somebody and placing them in another world that they don't belong to, and they have to make that world their own. And there's not, let's say you say you got 200 people auditioning for one role. Why does one actor get that role? Why? It's not necessarily because he's the best actor. You know, he's got the best method, the best voice. He just fits the role. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think a lot of directors are pampered these days, because they don't have to do anything. They just get the person, which is the role already.
That's true.
And that's why casting directors save a lot of work for directors, so they won't have to talk so much. So actually, when an actor comes on set, you just say, you know, that's your mark.
Yeah.
You go there, and that's it. And
You know,
the rest is the person.
Exactly.
If I think
They're
of it from,
prepared, yeah.
If I think of it from like a technical perspective, you hire a camera operator. You know, you're not going to tell them how to, you know, find best framing and do all this. That's their job. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why you brought them on. Hopefully, they're skilled enough where they do it. It's like you wouldn't tell someone to do their job.
Right.
You know, that's what they're here for. That's interesting.
And I think it's kind of funny to think when actors get auditions, right? They always have that thought when they go to do their self-tapes, when they go to do their Zoom auditions, they think to themselves, what can I do to make my audition stand out so that it gets the attention of a casting director and the producers and the director, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, when it comes down to, you know, when they go through the process of choosing the actor, it's the process of choosing that actor. It's like, really doesn't come down into being in the hands of the actor anymore. You just got to be yourself and put yourself into that role in the best that you can. But I think people think about it in like the actor at the end of the day has a lot less of control over the process than, you know, they would think.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What I think, I mean, you said that the actor has to be himself.
Yeah.
It's a given. He cannot be anybody else. So he can try.
Thank you.
He'll never achieve that.
Yes.
So anything that he says or does would be him being himself.
Exactly.
And that's it. Even if he does it bad, you know, he doesn't know the lines, he gets the lines wrong. That's himself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so if he doesn't get it right, this is again the process of casting. If he doesn't get it right, there's a line of 219 people outside. One of them the director will say, I don't know if he got it right, but I like the guy.
Yeah.
I like the guy. Why? I like the guy.
Yeah.
That's it. And for sometimes I auditioned actors who weren't that good on the technical side. You know how actors, they know. I think that's the method that you teach, dividing the script and understanding this and understanding that. I don't know how to do that. I was taught it, and it always seemed to me so much work, because I knew at the end of the day when I walk into the audition, they're not going to look at what I say, they're going to look at the person and say, I like that person is interesting, or that person does something to me. And that's it. I've cast people who weren't even ready on their auditions, and because I just liked them.
Yeah.
They fit the... And sometimes I was wrong. Sometimes I was wrong, but sometimes I was amazingly right. So...
And I think I think it's a great thing to explore in the beginning stages, but at some point you have to trust the text enough,
Absolutely.
and the character enough, and you have to invest in the character and just be free. And so while yes, I feel like we're kind of like an interesting meld of concepts. I like the idea of using, beats and method and all that sort of thing to kind of launch. But then at some point you have to let go. And you have to just be in the moment. And you have to listen. You have to listen to the other character, and you have to respond appropriately. You have to look at them. You have to feel them. You have to invest. And that's the part that is hard to teach. I can teach somebody how to beat a script to death. But in the end, you have to listen. You have to invest in the other person who's speaking to you and in the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the many ways of looking at, from my work with actors, they're so worried about themselves, they cannot listen. They cannot listen. It really sounds nice. You have to listen. You have to interact. But you don't listen.
Yeah.
You're worried about yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if I work on actors as an actor, and sometimes I see that they're thinking, they're talking to me, they're doing the things, but I see that they're so busy with their performance.
In their head, yeah.
And remember, and second up the then, do I have to put the glass on the desk here? And so it's listening. It sounds nice. It's amazing. I doubt it that actors really listen. And if I told you that story they asked, I think it was Anthony Hopkins about The Silence of the Lamb. Mm-hmm. They asked him, how did you get this really intense? The character was so... And he looked at me and he said, I was thinking about the paycheck. and I believe him.
Yeah.
I believe him because he is the person, him. He's very charismatic. He's very intelligent. He's got a good sense of humor. I'd listen to him thinking about his check. Mm-hmm. And a lot of other people do the same. And it's...
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for any actors who maybe... Because I feel like a lot of actors come from that place where they are thinking about themselves, like 95% of them, always thinking about how they look on camera, how they present themselves. What advice would you give to an actor to kind of go beyond that and not think so much?
Learn the text that they weigh it's very cliche that you wake a person up in the middle of the night and tell, give me the monologue, give me the dialogue. It's got to become so much them. It's not them delving into the character. They bring the character into them, which I think is easier.
I like
it's
that
easier.
idea.
You've got, I'm sure you got angry in your life. I'm sure you lost it once or twice in your life. I'm sure you wanted to kill somebody in your life. I'm sure you cried in your life. I'm sure you felt broken and shattered in your life. You have all this spectrum of feelings and situations that exist in you anyway.
That was just this morning.
And
But no, it's true. You're not wrong.
So, you know, you could try and be Napoleon or whoever you're playing, but you won't. It'll be a lot easier if you bring Napoleon into Adam and you just behave the way you behave.
I read this really good book where it kind of brought up the idea of like, you're the guy. Where they explain, okay, let's say you're going out for a small role of a lawyer. You're just a lawyer. Well, you're Adam the lawyer. You're Jonathan the lawyer. You're John the lawyer. How would you? You're other Adam the lawyer. How would you? You're just a lawyer now. You're now a store clerk. You're now a bus driver. Like, you don't change who you are because you drive a bus or you go to a courtroom. Sure, you might have different mannerisms if you're in a courtroom. That's just where you be than a bus. But you're you. You're you.
There is a tendency, you know, a lot of times that you ask for, you know, you're supposed to, you go in audition for a tough guy, you know, and you can be tough in a lot of ways. You can be tough in a lot of ways, even if if you're very gentle and fragile. All you need is just to pull up one knife and to slit somebody's throat.
Right.
Even if you're wonderfully sweet and lovely. So to look the bully, or to look the murderer, or to look the astronaut, or to look the lawyer, lawyers come in so many colors and so many variations that there's not a look for a lawyer, there's not a look for an astronaut, there's not a look for a criminal. Criminals come in all sizes. And so, yeah, and the best criminals, by the way, are the ones that don't look like criminals.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, and we like to put, you know, the typical stereotype, so it'll be easy to, you know, to understand and know where you are as a viewer, and yeah, that's why I like odd casting, because you go against the obvious. And
even in acting in our scenes, I often encourage people to play the opposite. So even though you're playing one thing, don't make it obvious. Play the opposite, but yet with the same intention. And it makes it so much more interesting. I love that. So I have a question for you, because when you were doing your workshop, we kind of had a discussion about acting schools and training and your thoughts. And we come from different ideas, and I encourage that. Look, there is no one way to do this thing, acting.
yeah.
So I want to know, like, what is your idea on like formal training at school for all that
I
sort
hate
of
it.
thing?
It's you know, when I was very young, I was cast in my first leading role when I was 18, and I never acted. I was never on a set.
Now this was Lemon Popsicle, right?
Yes. And the only thing I had to do for my audition was, and I was so frightened in my audition. I was so frightened. I never was in an audition before. And all of a sudden I get into this room and you have all these important people looking at me. And the director says, you see, the girl was there, Anat Tzmon, she's an Israeli star. Says, okay, let's say you want to make, how do you say, to start with her, to make a pass at her?
Okay, yeah.
Flirt with her?
Flirt with her, you know. And because I was so frightened, I just grabbed her and kissed her. And because I was holding for my life, you know, I was it was the only closest thing I could. It was like holding onto a life.
A life raft.
A life,
Yeah.
You know, just hold me, and it was amazing because it worked. It worked, and I didn't do it like I didn't do it aggressively. I was, on the contrary, I was very gentle, and I think that's why she went for it. And it was before the Me Too thing, and you know, we're talking 1977.
Yeah.
So that's how I got the role. I got the role just by making out. With
You're in
this
the
girl.
moment.
Yeah, and no, it's not. I wasn't in the moment. I was just, on the contrary. I was not in the moment. I was just doing something that didn't necessarily have to do with the role, but it had to do with a person. And the same thing happened in Schindler's, just like I told you.
Right.
I auditioned for Schindler's List, and they caught me on a really shitty day. I was in a very bad mood for some reason. I don't remember exactly what. And my agent calls and says, Steven Spielberg is auditioning for his movie. And I said, oh, then okay. So I went, and the casting person who was in there said, would you turn to the right? So I turned to the right, and then he said, you turn to the left. I was in a bad mood. I said, dude, why do I need to turn right and left? What's the story? And he said, that's what the producer asked. And I said, well, tell the producer to kiss my ass, and I walked out. The next day, my agent calls me. That's exactly what they were looking for. And that's how I got the part. And so, again...
Imagine. All right, guys. Today we're going to tell casting to kiss our ass.
But see,
Oh my gosh.
But this is the thing. When a casting person sees so many people over and over again, somehow you have to stand out. And if you really want to stand out, it may work or may not work.
Yeah.
I think that 90% of the time it backfires if you
Right.
trying extra hard to look extra unique and special.
Right.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, seriously, those casting people, yeah.
No, I mean, they do get bored. I used to sit on cast only for a summer. I sat in on castings. And you're right. By the end of the day, I'm seeing the exact same people. I am bored. And so are the clients. And literally what it came down to was the clients would find someone who they genuinely enjoyed, provided a spark in their day. And I mean, they don't have an intense acting background. So they're like, oh, that person was really interesting. They stand
maybe
out to
just
me.
because they didn't have an intense acting
Well,
background.
exactly. And they're just like, you know what? And they did the job. It's not like they messed up. They're like, but when they would, sometimes they would. The people who they really liked would mess up. But they're like, no, let's try it again. Let's make sure we get it. I want to get this so that we can like approve. I want to get like a good take of you.
And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And this is just to clarify. This is just my point. They would cast you not according to your talent or the way you deliver your text. They will cast you if they like you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And liking doesn't have to be because they kiss they kiss your ass or anything. Because there's something very genuine,
just something.
very unique.
You're bringing something. You're showing them something different.
Yeah.
And even Adam was talking about like just breaking away from the pack, right? Like not just delivering the same thing that every single other person is doing.
Yeah.
And you have to stand out.
I
I
love
agree.
that you brought that up though, because one thing that kind of going back to we were talking about with really like listening and being in the moment when you're doing scene work, like one thing I really strongly believe is that if you look at your scene partner's face while you're in a scene, that is food for your acting, and you're able to have a different situation every take that you get, which of course you need it to be consistent for when you're actually rolling. It's a different situation, but so I think that comes down to when you're doing an audition and you want to bring that unique feel to the character. It really helps to just be able to be in the moment, and just like look at your scene partner's face, because you'll be able to really bring out that. Where am I going with this? You'll be able to. It's like Adam moment, everybody.
It's a nice.
No, but I get it.
Thought, Adam.
But it is. I get it. Like listening is important, and not just falling into a pattern and a preconceived idea of how you're going to respond to something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
pre-planned.
Yeah.
But nothing's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, I
There's
remember
nothing worse. Yeah.
when I was casted in the Nickelodeon show back in 2015. I remember the entire time, like I was doing chemistry reads, so I'm with different people every single time, and I did the text so many times, like you said, like I didn't think about it. I was there. Some people had their scripts or whatever. So actually, one girl came in and brought her script in. I don't know how she still had a script at this point. It's the third chemistry read. It's like 2.5 weeks of auditioning, and I remember at one moment I'm teaching her how to dance. That's my character. Like she's going to school dance. I know how to dance really well, so I'm teaching her how to dance. My character's very, extravagant, very flamboyant, and I noticed she looked down at this paper, and in the middle of while I'm speaking, And my gut reaction was just like, what are you doing? I'm speaking to you. Totally off text. And then that got a huge like roar from the panel of 15 network producers casting. And
because they saw something different.
It was
as well.
different.
It was unexpected.
Yeah, if I was just like, you know, and like kind of what you're saying, being in the moment, I was just like, well, I'm literally teaching you something right now. Like, put this away. Like, I just grabbed her page, but I'm like, oh, no, I'm teaching her how to dance. We don't need to study for this. And anyway, so I just thought it was a funny moment, kind of blending, I guess, the two ideas, right?
That's so awesome that you said that, because like you shared your chemistry read stories, so now I got to share my chemistry read story, right? Ooh, I know. Story time with the Adams, everybody.
And then I'll share my chemistry grade. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, mine's so bad.
To be continued. Stay tuned. But yeah, so when I ended up, they were trying to figure out who was going to play a few characters in. So when I was on the show, Why the Last Man, first auditioned for one of the main characters, and afterwards they were like, okay, we want to find a character for you to play on the show. We know we want you on the show. We're not sure which character. So after going through reading with a few people, it was over Zoom because it was with obviously during COVID.
Right.
So they had a few different people come on, and since I still lived in Northern Ontario at that time, it was really weird being able to do chemistry reads over Zoom with a bunch of different people. It's like having that connection in the moment. It's not really the same as being in person, right? Because you don't have that in the moment feel of their energy. But if you're just going back to what you said, Adam, just kind of taking advantage of being in the moment and being able to feed off of what they're doing in the moment in the scene. Yeah. It just kind of helps you bring that, is gonna call it wackiness that you did.
Actually, I want to ask Jonathan about that. What do you feel about these online Zoom auditions? Like, if you were doing a casting nowadays, do you think that hinders the process, the creative process, or do you think well, of course it obviously helps the efficiency and the production save money. But what do you think about that?
I think it's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
Because again, at the end of the day, the casting director collects all his stuff, and they start watching, and a lot of times the director's not even there.
Yeah.
So, I think because a lot of casting directors actually harm the performance. Right. They try to do something and they harm the performance either by being extremely unpleasant a lot of times. Casting people are sometimes unpleasant. And that a lot of times that even causes actors to clam up and not be able to perform or do whatever.
Yeah.
So if they could do it at the comfort of their own home, their personality will come out. The person will come out. Again, it's I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great thing. The only thing is that you have to have somebody, if you're doing a scene, you have to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
But again, in casting, a lot of casting, you have people who don't know how to act for shit, and they just read like a very robotic way. And yeah, so I think it's actually good. But I want to say something about what you said, Adam, to be in the moment and listen. A good actor, he can, if he's a good actor, he can act listening. He doesn't necessarily have to listen, but he has to act as if he's listening, because that's what the role calls for.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Hours?
Yeah, brilliant film.
There's an amazing scene there where Julianne Moore comes after many years. She's deserted her son. She comes back to explain to Meryl Streep what happened and why she left. And it's an entire it's her monologue. It's a huge monologue, and Meryl Streep just listens. And I could see this is why she's a brilliant actress. She's listening. She's very convincing as listening. She even tears up. She wells up. But I know actors. I know. My mom was an actress. Mm-hmm. That's part of the shtick, you know?
I didn't know that.
And you actually, you know, so a lot of times, I'm sure it happens to you guys, that you're listening and talking to someone, you say, yeah. and you don't hear a word. A word. You're performing. You're acting as if, you think I'm really listening to you because I'm doing this and very interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm not really. And that's what happens a lot to actors. And
You know
that's
what?
makes
You're
them
right,
actors.
David. And that's. Oh, I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's.
But you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because you know what? I think that's very true, and it's very telling. So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you admire as an actor? Are there any actors or actresses that
Tons.
stand out to you? Well,
Tons.
and why? If you had to choose
Because
one,
I like them. It's
Yeah.
that simple. It's that simple. I like those actors. I like watching them. I like what they do. I like the way they. There's an actress called Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
I saw a movie, not a very good movie, where she plays. It was something to do with the White House and Walter Cronkite. Something. I don't remember exactly the story, because as I said, I didn't really follow the story, but I watched her. She's astounding. She owns her words. She made her words. It was so interesting to see how it comes out of her mouth. But that's her. Mm-hmm. That's just her. I am almost positive she didn't work on it that much.
But sometimes doesn't that kind of make it more natural?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The
It's not
person, I'm
over-processed.
sure that her in her life,
Yeah.
she's very similar in how she talks and says what she has to say. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes she's fragile, sometimes she's very adamant, sometimes she's strong, sometimes she's weak, sometimes she cries, sometimes she yells. And all that is within her. And she gets up, she takes her makeup off and she goes home and she, goes and prepares dinner, talks to her husband, talks to her kids. I'm sure that all those elements exist in her anyway. And that's why it's fascinating to see her as a person, because she really is, again, the person is interesting for me, and therefore I love watching her act.
Yes.
And there are actors that I don't like, because A, I don't like them,
Yeah.
and B, that's it.
That's all I need for
And
going.
B, I really
Where's he going
don't
with
like
that?
If you're going,
Right.
if you're going based
There's
off
no
what
B.
you've been saying, I mean, if a good actor just presents themselves, it's like,
True.
then you just don't like them. That's it. That's who they are.
But as I said, they have no choice.
Yeah.
They can't present anyone else.
No, that's it.
No.
So that's it.
So how do you become more likable? Half genuine, half joking.
But it's a very good question,
Yeah.
because, and I'm sure you ask yourself the same thing when you go on a job interview,
Right.
when you go on a date, when you go to speak to your students. You want them to like you. You want everybody to like you.
I think it's
How do you
natural,
make
but there's
people
also something very powerful about letting go of that. I think for Adam Peddle, I have to specify.
Yeah.
Like, which
For
Adam?
Adam Peddle in particular, I think the moment your career took off was when you stopped caring.
I stopped caring what
You
they thought
stopped
of me.
worrying about what
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
thought about you, and you just dove into the character and dove into the circumstances and dove into whatever, and you stopped caring about what casting wanted. You stopped caring about what your agent wanted.
yeah.
You stopped caring about what everybody else wanted, and you started doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And then all the pieces fell into place.
And you know what's funny? The ones that I booked, I learned the material. So what I used to do, this is my process back when I acted 4 or 5 years ago, is if I got 2 days to prepare and do my audition, first day would be memorize. I'm going to put it in my body. I'm not going to work on the art. I'm just going to put it in my body. Second day, I would start to touch it up a bit, start to do all my work, do all my script work, and make choices, and et cetera, et cetera. The ones where I booked, I just got to day one. I just put it in my body, and then I was like, I don't have time to do any of this stuff, so I just did it. Mm-hmm. That's actually the ones that I booked. So I think it's really interesting.
It happens to me a lot, because it was almost a rule that every time I went to an audition and I felt, wow, I really nailed it, I did good, I never got it.
Right.
And when I thought I had a really shitty audition,
Yeah.
because I wasn't prepared well enough, and it's not that I wasn't prepared well enough. I didn't ruin it enough. I didn't have time to ruin it.
Right.
To make all these and again,
Cerebral.
Yeah.
It's amazing how sometimes actors ruin it, and they have how there's the classic sing along that actors go for. But I did. Oh, but why? Yes, but all right. No. Yes. So obviously, you want to color. You want to color.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, come on.
Yeah.
But in real life, there are people who talk like that.
Yeah.
They color naturally.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
Oh my god! But like honestly, I think it's so funny. That, like, okay, I love that you brought that up because there's a saying where it's like, just say the words when you do your audition. Just say the words, because if you overthink it, that's how you ruin an audition, is by overanalyzing what you're saying.
I think
right?
David Mamet was the one who said
Yes.
in his book, True or False, was it? That an actor's job is learn the lines, know your mark. That's it.
Yep.
That's what an actor has to do. And I strongly believe that that's it, especially since, I grew up with an actress mom. My mom was an actress, and she was a very known actress in Israel. And I remember she used to prepare her lines, and she used to stand in front of the mirror, and she used to do this.
That was me growing up.
And then, when she went on stage, I could say that because, rest her soul, she's already not with us. I didn't like her acting. I didn't like her acting because she was so busy with coloring and sing-along. Oh, but why? Why do you say that? Just because I'm a bitch? No. And all that. And it's one of those things that I never lied to her. She was very brave, my mom. And she used to bring me and my sister, who were her greatest critics, to her premieres. And she used to ask, so how was it? And I used to tell her. And that's it.
A big, deep breath.
I think she liked it. I think she liked it because she sometimes she took my advice, and I really liked it. There's an expression for actors. I don't know if they use the same in English, to sit on your text.
Yeah.
Does it exist?
I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that
You
too.
take the text and you sit on it. It's really heavy. You sit on your text, and yeah, you shouldn't. You should stand next to your text and give it coffee and a donut.
I was gonna say coffee.
So, I mean, you started off very young, and you had success come to you very early. Do you see that as, I mean, we work with young talent, and a lot of them have success very early. Do you see that as an asset, or as something that was kind of a bit of a setback?
It's what you do with it. It could be an asset. It could be not an asset. It could be sometimes an asset, sometimes not an asset. I don't
How
think,
did you
there are a lot of
process?
actors. There are a lot of actors who started off as kids and just developed and evolved to being amazing actors, and vice versa. So I don't know if there is a
Answer.
rule to
How did Lemon Popsicle influence you in your career?
Well, it was, first of all, because I'm gay, and the role is a role of a straight womanizer, very what's the word?
Macho?
Chauvinistic?
Really
Macho?
cocky, and I hated the guy. I really hated the guy, but it was amazing. I just brought him in, and it worked. I was a gay person behaving as if I'm a straight person, and I guess I got that in me somehow. and it worked amazingly we did 8 movies from those series. And,
incredible.
So I guess I convinced a few people, or I managed to lie my way through, and it was...
There's still a huge fan following now. It's interesting.
No, it's just
Yes.
a few...
John knows the website, so show you.
John did his research.
No, but it is fascinating. I mean, you still get quite a bit of attention for it. So
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
it had an impact.
I have a really funny story. I went to my accountant in Israel. I don't know, we're talking about 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And he comes to me and he says, Phyllis from upstairs, she's so excited because, the guy from Lemon Popsicle is coming. She really wants to meet you. And she's so excited. And she tells me, please call me when he comes. Tell me I want to come down. And so I roll my eyes because I this, and he calls Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis, he's here. And, quickly, after half a minute, she comes down. She says, where is he?
Oh my gosh.
And it was so funny.
Ouch.
She expected,
The
guy,
same,
18-year-old
like, teenager.
Oh my god.
And you're like, I don't know, where?
He was here a minute ago.
I know, right?
He went back to his time machine. Oh my god.
Oh. So how did you deal with the success at that age? Did your mom help ground you since she was in the industry?
No, my mom was a theater actress. So she was a part of the repertory theater in Haifa, which is a city north of Israel. Mm-hmm. It's kind of away from the center of Tel Aviv and the industry. She was a very, very well-respected theater actress. She didn't do film. And I didn't like theater. I just went straight to film, and I loved the medium. I loved the ability to come close and see the eyes, the lips, the saliva, the little hairlets. It was amazing for me. And the acting is different because you don't have to act. That's the lovely thing about it. But it was I think the fact that I was gay. I wasn't, how do I say? I think I wasn't very complete with my gayness at the time. I was very young. And because I was this publicity came so fast due to me playing a straight role, the clash between me and the other me was so intense that it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me. Those few first years.
So were you getting a lot of attention from women? At that
Oh
time?
yeah. Oh yeah. I was married, and I was even convinced that that's my life. But soon enough, I found out that it's not, and it's. I'm happy I made the leap, and I'm at one with myself.
You know yourself now.
Yes.
So here's the big question. What's next for you? What do you want to do?
What I want to do is the film that you and me read the script.
Yeah, that was great.
It's an Israeli script. I got a lot of money to develop it. I didn't get enough money to produce it yet. And in Israel, the situation now is really bad. So, because I'm back in Canada where I was born and raised, I have decided to take the script. I have to rewrite it again for the God knows how many times to turn it into a North American story.
How do you feel about that?
Actually, it's quite exciting, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, it's exciting because if it's in English, there's a chance that people will actually see it.
The reality sets in. But there is something beautiful, I just have to say. So there's a lot of value in just talking about like the requirement to be in the Israeli army and those sorts of realities. And I'm having a hard time, having read the script, I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around taking that part out of it. How do you plan to tackle that sort of that's a pretty monumental challenge, I think. I mean,
think, you know, because you read the script and you read it amazingly, I told you, you are an amazing actor, and I'm surprised you're not acting. So, but that's not the point. The
stay
thing
tuned
is,
from podcast number 2.
I think that I have to be realistic. I probably won't be able to do it in Israel. And after I heard you read it, I said, "Fuck, he's not Israeli. You don't know the thing. You don't know if it's a good story. If it's a good relationship story, it could be in Kazakhstan. It could be in India. It could be anywhere. If it's a good story."
It's true.
And I'm serious about the English. You know, when I did my very first feature movie was in Hebrew, and it did amazingly well in film festivals because it was kind of a festival darling, as they call it. But I couldn't sell it because it was in Hebrew. And at the time, I even thought of making a remake in English in London. But I got bored with the idea, so I kind of dropped it. And when I did my second film, I decided to make it in English in England. And it was a good choice because at least people got to see it. And networks bought it, and it was I think it was a good choice. And I would have loved to make it in its original language, but people who don't speak the original language, which are the majority of the people who saw it, they don't know. For them, the reality was real reality, and they speak English, and I think it was okay. So this film, the next one, yeah, it's got to be a good story. If it's not a good story, it'll suck anyway. So.
True.
So I have a pretty, I was going to say, the question is, I'm going to say kind of an open question, but what made you want to start writing, like scripts?
I didn't get work as an actor.
That's pretty rude.
That answer.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I exactly brought the
At one
realness.
point, because I lived in Israel for many, many years. In 1990, they had the Gulf War. Do you remember? It was the Gulf War.
Heard of that.
Yep.
Saddam Hussein sent rockets all the way from Iraq to Israel, and Israel was shut down for months and months. And I was at home, and I didn't have anything to do. And my mom had a friend she knew from back way in Poland during the Holocaust. And I knew this friend as a child, and I asked her, you know, do you mind if I write a story about you and your friend? She said, sure, yeah, but what are you going to write? You know, so I wrote it was a 4-page script. And I gave it to someone. He said, oh, wow, that's very interesting. You know, why don't you make it a 15-page script? So I went home, I wrote a 15-page script. And then it turned into a 35-page script. And slowly, and that's how Lipstica was actually created.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, gentlemen, unfortunately, we're out of time today.
So on that note of gratitude, thank you, Jonathan, for being here. Honestly,
Thank you for having me. Really, it was so enjoyable to do the workshop with you guys. Really, it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed the atmosphere here. Adam, thank you again. You've been a lot of help, and you've been an amazing help. And also you. Plus, you bought a Diet Coke, which is
See, he still remembers.
it's the little things
So
in life.
thank
It
you.
truly is.
Thank
It's
you.
not a joke.
I mean, this was a great discussion. I know a lot of listeners that we have are actors or people who are in the industry, they're going to find that your words are very valuable. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
And stay tuned, because hopefully there will be another workshop with Jonathan Sagall coming up very soon. So
Part 2.
So everyone check out our website. It will be on there under classes-workshops. So make sure you check that out. And guys, till next time, thank you very much for watching.
see you next time.
Bye.